Thank you for joining us today. Please hit subscribe and share. Please feel free to leave us a comment.
Hey guys, check out the new episode, the new podcast. Appreciate you guys. Just remember, if you guys want a podcast, there's no better way to do it than Anchor. Number one, it's free. Everybody loves free. Free. And then you can also record and edit your podcast right here and not have to go anywhere else. And Anchor will also distribute your podcast to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many, many more. So guys, definitely, if you're looking to podcast, use Anchor. Love you guys.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Vertical Momentum. I am your host, Richard Kaufman, also known as the Comeback Coach. And guys, you know that on this show, we talk to game changers and today's thought leaders. And the gentleman that we have on today is both. He's definitely changing the game. So I just want to thank our sponsors first and say thank you for sponsoring the show. Without you, we would not be where we are. War Cry Apparel. If you guys love working out, if you guys like getting jacked, but you want to look good while working out, definitely check out War Cry Apparel. And they are a veteran-owned company that also gives back to the veterans and in our cities and states. Guys, this is going to be a great episode. This gentleman's career I have actually followed since he was in college in Kentucky, and what an amazing player he was in the NFL, and even better things that he's doing out of the uniform. And he's a two-time Amazon best-selling author. His book is amazing. I love it. I just picked it up last week and read, and I loved it. So Reggie Rusk, my brother, how are you today?
I am doing awesome. How about you?
Oh, man. You know what? Every day God gives me is a good day.
Exactly.
If I get to wake up, then I'm able to help somebody else, and I'm having an amazing day.
Yes, sir.
How was your weekend?
Oh, man, it was good. It was filled with 7-on-7 tournaments. I think my kids almost gave me an early stroke. When you're in the heat of battle, competition, and you're trying to teach these kids, how to play the game, it can get kind of stressful, but it's definitely rewarding.
Now, I got to say, I've been, like I said, I followed you from college. And the reason why I followed you, because I started hearing about this kid that was changing the culture of the football team in Kentucky. Because everybody knew at one time Kentucky was just basketball. But when you got there, you started changing the game. So that's why I started following you, because I knew you were a total game changer. So tell us a little bit about your upbringing, because you're a lot of people's paths that'll go straight up, but yours went up, down, left, right. It went all different ways that you would never expect for you, the man that you are today. So tell us a little bit about little Reggie.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I grew up in Lamarck, Texas, and grew up in a single parent household. And a lot of things I had to learn just based off of experience and just going through it. And like you said, those roller coasters, I think that's life. But grew up, and sports was the outlet that kind of helped me separate myself from some of my friends. I had guys that I grew up with that, you hear the story all the time. It's kind of cliche, but you have friends that went to jail. You have friends that are now deceased. And those were the some of the friends that I had. Now, some of them went to jail and some of them were murdered. And I chose sports to be my outlet, and I was able to go out there and compete at a high level. I lettered in 3 different sports. I ran track, played basketball, and of course football. And it was funny, the fact that in high school I had no offers, and going into my senior year, and we switched coaches going into my senior year. So we got a new coach, and at the end of that year, he called me into his office, and he just sat me down and said, I love your leadership. I love the person that you are. You don't get in trouble. Everybody respects you. Everyone likes you. And you're a hell of a football player. what do you think about playing at the next level? And up until that point, I had never had that conversation with anyone before. And I think just being a young kid, naive, I was like, yeah, I'm sure, I'd love to play, because the opportunity was in California, San Francisco, California. And having that conversation, I think, really changed me, because that was the first time I had that conversation, and I never looked at myself in that light. I just wanted to go out and compete and play at a high level, not knowing or thinking that it's going to take me to, a school out in California. And when I got out there, Coach George Rush, man, he just took me under his wing and mentored me more so like a father figure opposed to just a coach. And that too kind of helped transform the person and the man that I am today, because, you know, I looked at him as the father figure, and he actually exposed me to things that I had never been exposed to, like entrepreneurship and camping. I still remember going camping for the first time, and he took me and a few of the other guys that were from out of state. He took us camping, and it really changed the way that we looked at things. And so when I got into coaching, I modeled my coaching after those men who looked at the kids as people, not just commodities, not.
Yeah, I think your phone locked, so we can't. If your phone locks, it'll kind of blurt us out a little bit. Oh no,
Oh,
it's a weird thing that it just
I
app
didn't
has
even
that.
pay attention to that. Okay. Yeah, so going there really helped me become a man. It really helped me grow up. I was away from home. I didn't have money, so we had to really rough it, and but it really defined who I was as a person. And when I got the opportunity to be recruited by several big time college football organizations or colleges, it just changed me. And I always had a chip on my shoulder. That part wasn't changed, but it just allowed me to grow as a person. And when I got to Kentucky, it was kind of rough, because I thought I was going in to be, at least be able to compete, to be a starter. And my whole entire junior year, I was just a backup role, and I played special teams, and I wasn't happy about it, because I knew that I was talented enough to be on the field, and I used that as a lightning rod to really propel me going into my senior year. So that was the first time that I had faced that type of adversity, because I've always been a starter. And, I could have tucked my tail and ran and quit, or whatever the case may be. I chose to write some goals down. I chose to work a little harder, and I chose to watch film on the guy that was in front of me. And those things just totally made a complete difference for me in my playing career. And my senior year, I led the SEC in solo tackles. I was a leader on the team, and got some looks at the NFL, and was invited to the combine, which, you know, if you get invited to the combine, all you got to do is go in there and compete, and take that opportunity. So, and that's what I did.
And I grew up, because that's where I'm from, South Carolina. I'm a Gamecock, so I kind of felt your pain a couple times. Because you just crushed a lot. You were a great cornerback. So what was it like going to the combine, and then you're seeing all these amazing players, and then you see some uh, cornerbacks that are 6'1", 6'2". What was your thoughts, coming in at 5'10"?
Yeah, I mean, it is intimidating. It's very intimidating when you see guys that are 6'1", 6'2", play the same position as you. But I think when you're a competitor, when the lights come on, everybody's the same size to you. You know what I mean? That light switch goes off in your head, and you forget about all of that. when you're in a situation like at the combine, yes, you're able to see those guys that are bigger, that are stronger, that are faster, because it's just measurements. And what I used to do, I used to play a mind hack on myself. When I was in high school, I was about 5'10", 170 pounds, but they had me playing middle linebacker. And they played me at middle linebacker because I was probably one of the toughest kids on the team by far. So my mind hack was, I would tell myself that I'm 6'2", 200 pounds. And every time I put those pads on, I believed that. So I never let my size, keep me from excelling, even though people were probably bigger than me. I always felt like I played faster. I was stronger. Those were the things that I call it a mind hack. You tell yourself these things, and then you start to believe those things, and you can go out and crush whatever it is that you're doing.
And when you were playing, you reminded me of one of my favorite players of all time, Darryl Green, because he just had that never quit attitude. He played like he was 6'5", and he was still, even at advanced age, he was still the fastest guy on the team. And I think a lot of it had to do with his mind, but I also had to do with his faith. And you were one of the guys that kind of reminded me of that. So what was it like getting drafted to Tampa?
It was surreal. And I got the phone call. I was predicted, fourth round to free agency, and back then it was a lot different than how it is now, and the guys have so much TV time and things of that nature. So I didn't even see my name go across the screen, but I got the call from Coach Dungy from Tampa Bay, and I was happy. I never look at things. I never let things be bigger than what they are. So I just looked at it as an opportunity for me to continue to play, opportunity for me to be in the NFL, but I didn't let it get too big. So when I got the call, I was excited, I was happy, but I wasn't. I'm always kind of even keel, so I didn't get overly excited. I was just, that's great, that was all of this hard work that I put in. Someone took notice of it and have given me another opportunity. So that's how I kind of looked at it.
Now, was Mr. Dungy, because I respect that man so much, was he a mentor when you got to the
Yeah, I
team?
would definitely say, we had an all-star coaching staff. You had Lovie Smith, you had Herm Edwards, you had Tony Dungy, was Lane Kiffin, well, actually his dad, Kiffin, Money Kiffin. So when you look at that coaching staff, that we didn't know it at the time, but that just became a world-class coaching staff. And they were players coaches. I could come to Herm and ask him a question, and he was always available. And I was a young guy and really not that technically sound. So I earned, practice squad that first year because I went in hard nosed, but I still had some learning and to do because I had never really played corner like that. I was mostly at safety. So like I said, I look at things as opportunities, and all of us get opportunities, but what are you going to do with that opportunity when you get there? Like I could have went there, partied and hung out and all of those things, but I always remained level-headed and asked questions of my coaches and found the things that I was weak at the time, and I wanted to work and perfect that craft. So being there, Coach Dungy was definitely a role model. He was the kind of man that you want to idolize yourself or mimic yourself as when you grow and become a man.
And you had some great players on that defense, and you had some like I said, that was probably one of the best defenses that I've ever watched. And I'm sure that the meeting rooms had to be pretty interesting at times.
Yeah, I mean, they were all about the details. that's what that whole organization with Coach Dungy wanted to come in. Tampa was a losing organization. So our first year, we had those old popsicle looking colors, and he came in, he changed that. So my second year, they had another great draft class. That's with Warwick Dunn and Mike Allstott, and they changed the uniforms. And when you make that type of change, you change mindsets. And that's what they did. They came in, they changed mindsets. They were sticklers on the details. And that's why you saw that defense so detailed, everyone doing their job. And that's why it was so great.
So no, I'm sure you said you've learned a lot, but then you also had, unfortunately, you had to learn that NFL is a business. So when they had you move on to the Seattle Seahawks, what was that like? How was that coaching staff?
It was good. It was a little different. I had to make a decision. I could have stayed in Tampa. They actually said that they wanted me to stay. I just felt like, that second year I beat Runday out for the fourth corner starting spot. And I felt like I worked my butt off, and, I got caught up in the politics. We want to see what Runday can do. And who knew that he was going to be a potential Hall of Famer? I think he did make Hall of Fame this year. But, at the time, I was disappointed because I felt like I outworked everybody that was there. I just felt like that. So I was faced with a decision. Do I stay there, which they said they still wanted me to stay there, or do I take this new opportunity and go to Seattle? And I believe in when opportunity comes, it comes because God has intersected your life for that particular reason. If Seattle wouldn't have come up, I would have stayed in Tampa, and I just let that happen. But when God gave me that opportunity, I said, I'm going to take this opportunity because it must be there for a reason. So, that's what I did. I chose to go to Seattle and start over.
And you did, and you did well again, because I think a lot of it is your mindset. You have that never quit, never give up mindset, and there's been a lot of the players, obviously, because you've been in the league, that they say that hard work beats talent that doesn't work hard. There's been so many people that have played in the NFL. It's just they did not put in the work, and they did not pay attention to details. So do you think that's why you lasted 6 seasons in the NFL? Because you pay attention to details and you work hard?
Yeah, definitely.
And so then you went to San Diego. Obviously, San Diego is a beautiful part of the country. How'd you enjoy San Diego?
I love San Diego. It was weird. When I was in Seattle, I ended up breaking my foot. Back then, you couldn't get on injury reserve and then come back and play. And I broke my foot before the first game of the season. So I was faced with another tough decision. And I chose to take an injury settlement, which made me a free agent. And, this goes back to play every play hard, be detailed. So I was contacted by San Diego later that year in '98. And Greg Gaines called me, and he was the player personnel director. And he still remembered me playing at Kentucky because he was from Tennessee. And he saw me play against Peyton and the Tennessee Vols, our last game of the year. And when he saw that I was a free agent, he contacted me. But it goes back to what I tell all my young players. You play every play like it's your last play, because you never know who's watching you. And just think, if I would have taken some plays off or not given everything all the time, maybe Greg Gaines wouldn't have saw me play, or he wouldn't have seen the play that made him remember me. And he calls me and he says, look, we want to bring you in for a workout in San Diego. And I was dealing with turf toe, and I just come off of a broken foot. So I went back. I went out there, worked out, did really well. And he was, you need a advocate in the front office for you. And he was that advocate for me. So I lasted a couple years at San Diego before tearing my knee up. But, it just goes back to working hard, being detailed, and being a good person. And a lot of people miss that part of it. The NFL is a business, but at the end of the day, 90% of the guys that play you can be replaced. There's only a few guys that are so dynamic that they are hard to replace. For the most part, it's apples to apples. So that's where your character, that's where who you are as a person really comes to help you in those situations. And I've always believed that, and I think that's why I lasted.
So now, like I'm a retired Army veteran. After 23 years, I had to take off the uniform because I got hurt and could no longer fulfill my duties. So what was it like knowing that your football career was over, and what was the next step for you after you got out of the NFL?
Well, I always considered myself a smart person, and got along with people. So once it was over, it didn't hit me for a couple of years because I got busy on starting a business. So I dove into that. I think as when you play football your entire life, and that's all it's ever been, and most guys, they miss it immediately. It took me a couple years to really miss it. And so I started my own business and start doing that stuff. And then I kind of started feeling that itch and that void, because now you're no longer in the locker room. No one's giving you a schedule. We're having to make our own schedule, make our own way. So the transition from the NFL to, I would say, civilian life was definitely a difficult one, because that's a game that I had played since I was 9, and now all of a sudden it's over, and there's nothing that can replace that. And I don't care if you are starting a business, starting a youth league, there's nothing that can replace you being in the locker room with your peers.
Now that was a question that I was up last night just thinking about our interview. A lot of people don't really know what it's like, to be in an NFL locker room, or and to being into a military locker room. So please take us into the locker room and what it's really like, and not what people actually think it's like.
I mean, it's like a bunch of kids playing. I mean, basically, you have a bunch of grown men that act like kids. They play video games. They sit up and tell jokes on and play around with each other. That's what it's like. It's no different at every level. It's just now that we're just older, and that's the beauty of it. It's a team game, just like in high school. You have your guys that you hang out with and you socialize with after, and so I think that's what the locker room is like. It's different, and anyone that's played sports, a competitive team sport, they can understand what it's like being on a team. And it's that in the NFL is no different. It's just the fact that now things are a little bit more touchy, as far as if you're cut, you may not never get that opportunity again. And as in high school, you can still play even if you're not the best. You can still be a part of the team. The NFL, that's where the separation is. You're always fighting for your life in a sense.
Now you've been in a lot of locker rooms, and I was talking to a gentleman. His name is Marquise Ogden. We were talking last week, and what an amazing person and story he has. But who is the one of the unsung heroes that you've had in that locker room that a lot of people may never heard of, but were like the heart and soul of a locker room?
I would say my rookie year, Martin Mayhew really made a big impact on me. And I don't know if he knew that, but, I would always see him reading his newspaper. He's looking at his stocks and stuff, and I would always talk to him. Uh, Martin Mayhew and, I would say Martin and Charles Demery when I was young. And when I was older, the guy that I looked at and was like, wow, was Junior Seau. Junior was just
Yeah, I loved. He was one of my favorite players
Junior was just
of,
different,
of
man. He
all
was
time.
just different. He was just a good guy. You got a lot of guys that just I think sometimes fame go to their head. I've never been struck by fame, so I can meet anyone and not be overwhelmed with meeting them. But Junior was that guy who was always down to earth. You could talk to him. He didn't seem like he was the one of the best players in the league. He studied, so he was like one of those guys that I personally got an opportunity to play with, that I looked up to. Um, and that's not many. I can't tell you many, because I've always paved my own way and I saw things my own way. But Junior was one of those guys that I would say, man, just watching him be a pro really helped me,
Now,
from afar.
now you've gotten. I'm sure you've gotten your bell rung a couple times and gone through a couple concussions. Have you ever had any problems with like memory
Oh,
loss and stuff
definitely,
like that?
definitely. I am definitely in the concussion lawsuit. The NFL that's one thing. When we say it's a business, it's a business. I started noticing, we're football players, so we overlook a lot of pain and aches and things that go on. But your spouse is the person that knows you. I've been with my wife since high school, so she knows me better than anyone. And she was telling me things that I was doing that I just overlooked, because I thought it was just a part of being, being getting older, and just forgetfulness. But she's the one that really brought those things to my attention. And I was experiencing and still do headaches, um, memory loss for sure. I mean, I've been left my keys running in the car, and my car just stayed running all night. It's been a lot of those type of incidents that, now understanding, I can document and see that that's not something that's normal.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, we are taught to disregard a lot of those things. So I didn't think it was nothing out of the ordinary. But forgetting your keys or losing your wallet several times in a year, and that wasn't something that was ordinary.
Yeah, I get it. Because I have a traumatic brain injury, so I totally get it. So tell us about 2007 when you started your next level. What was that all about?
Well, I had another business. It was a transportation business. It wasn't a passion. It was just something to do. Something I felt like I needed to, just get involved in something after not playing in the NFL. So I've always wanted, like I said, the coaching aspect of it. Um, that was something that I always wanted to do. So I started the training, had a few clients, and just started from there and just grew. I grew, kids start coming, and next thing you know, it's a business. And I've been doing that for a while, and then now I added the Stay Recruited, which now I want to help kids in my community become community leaders, understand how to get recruited by colleges. So we do a lot of different things in our program that's going to help kids and set them apart and just using sports as the vehicle. Without sports, I wouldn't be the person that I am. And I took those opportunities and I just made good on them. So I'm trying to help kids understand the things that I didn't understand early on. I want them to be able to understand those things now, get involved in their community, because we are a big part of our community and we are leaders. So I want to make sure that they understand early on that they're leaders and they need to lead by example.
And I definitely love that. Now, like I said, I bought your book probably about 2 weeks ago when I knew we were going to talk, and it was amazing. Because I've interviewed a couple coaches now that I have on there. That when coaches are sitting in a recruit's dining room or living room, that those parents are trusting their child with you. And it was amazing, because I've actually talked to some of the kids that you've actually helped recruit. And the biggest thing they said is that, when you were sitting in that living room, that you wanted to teach those kids to be men. You wanted to not only coach, but also mentor. So can you please talk about coaching and mentorship?
Oh, yeah.
All right, we kind of lost you there a little bit. Think your phone muted. Locked, I mean. Are you there, my friend? I think your phone might have locked again. Yeah, guys. So what we're talking about is we're actually talking about mentorship and coaching. And I think that was one thing that Tony Dungy also did a lot to a lot of players, was teaching somebody how to be a man.
Can you
So,
hear
and
me?
I think that's one thing that
Okay. Yeah,
I
someone
got you
tried to
now,
call
brother.
me. All right. Sorry about that.
Because
Yeah.
you're
You
that
know how it
important.
is.
That's
Whenever
what
you're on the
it is.
phone, everyone calls you. Yeah.
That's it.
Mentorship was definitely a huge part of what it is that I wanted to accomplish with my programs. Like I told you before, um, coaching and mentorship go hand in hand, because if I show these kids that I genuinely care about their success on and off the field, they're going to perform at higher levels. And that's the same thing that happened to me when.
Okay. Now, one thing, I've noticed a lot of people, that are very highly successful, even as they advance in their careers, they always looking for coaches and better coaches. So is it something that you have to be coachable? I guess he got another phone call. But we're talking about, sometimes you have to be humble and coachable. And no matter how old you get, like I just turned 52, and sometimes, I have to find a coach in an area that I'm lacking in or not as good at. Like one of my coaches, I consider a coach or a mentor, is Ed Milet. And he's probably one of the best speakers and orators that I know. And he actually helps with my speaking and talking to people and interviewing skills. Are you there, my brother? All right. I'm sure he's going to hop back on. He had a phone call go through. Um, so, like I said, he played for Tampa Bay, which before he got there, if you remember, had those ugly uniforms. They had a losing culture. And when Tony got there, they started changing the culture from the inside out, because you can't change.
Oh man,
There you are.
everybody's trying to call me now. Okay, sorry about that.
Oh no, not at all. I totally understand, and I was just telling the audience that sometimes when you're trying to change a culture, you have to change it from the inside out, not from the outside in.
Definitely, definitely, and especially when you're dealing with young kids, young-minded, because they have so many other influences going on in their lives, and you're trying to show them a way of thinking from a 30 to 40-year-old mindset, but they're 15, 14, 15, 16 years old. So you have to be able to connect with them. If we continue to think that we can use old school ways of coaching and mentoring and get the results that we are needing, we're sadly mistaken. You have to assimilate to how kids are now. They're different than how we were when we came up, and I've discovered that, and that's why I try a different way of coaching. But I think for the most part, once they learn that you really actually care about them, they'll buy into whatever it is that you're trying to get them to do.
And you seem like one of those old school coaches. And I love old school because I'm old school. And I used to love when Warwick Dunn scored a touchdown. He would just hand the
Yeah,
ball off to
yeah.
the referee, or instead of you get a first down and all of a sudden you're celebrating every 5 minutes just for just getting a first down. So is that the kind of coach you are? Just like act like you've been
Oh,
there
definitely. I
and
think
done that.
that goes. I'm not going to say solely character, but I think that shows people about your character. Act like you've been there before. Act like you've done it. Act like you've been successful before. And if you haven't ever been successful, but you act like you have, people will think that you are successful and more opportunities will come. So that's how I look at things. And, when I'm working with my kids now, we don't do the fighting and the talking. And I always tell them, do your fighting on the field. You show them by your actions and what you're doing. You don't need to say anything.
Guess what? I love the story where Barry Sanders scored one of his first touchdowns, and he started celebrating. And when he got back home, his dad called him and totally bitched him out and said, act like you've been there. And then after that, he never celebrated. He just handed the ball off and went on to do his thing. And I think that's a great thing in life to realize that you came far, but you're not so far where you cannot be humble. And I think that's something about you. I think I've heard that word used a lot. You were a very humble individual.
Oh,
Can
definitely.
you talk about that in being humble
I've
in life
always
and
been humble,
business?
and I think to a point, sometimes too humble, because for the longest, I wouldn't even tell people that I played football after I was retired. And I think using the shield, because they've used us as, I look at it as, yes, you make good money while you're playing, but the NFL for most people don't set you up for the rest of your life. But being humble and being able to utilize what we've accomplished to set yourself apart in life and in business is not a bad thing. And for the longest, I looked at that as bragging. So I would never say, I played in the NFL, opposed to using that as a tool to become more successful. But I'm learning here now, it's not that I'm not being humble about it. It's just the way I need to use that as I would say, to build relationships. You can build a lot more relationships saying that, yeah, I used to play in the NFL, because some people look at that differently. I always looked at it as maybe bragging, but a lot of my friends told me it's not really bragging because you're not that type of person.
So who is that one? And I think I know who it is, but who is it, that one person that instilled in you to have a heart of service? Because you seem to have a heart of service, and you seem to be a man of faith. So, who was that one person that when you were younger really
Definitely
got
my
that into your
mom.
soul?
Definitely my mom. She worked her butt off and still to this day works her butt off. But she's always um, told me that you have to be humble. You have to show gratitude, giving back. So it was just something that was instilled in me early on, and I just continue to carry that. I think giving back, actually, that's more fulfilling to me than anybody coming to me about something that I've done in my career, or um, any accomplishment of writing a book and becoming a bestseller. My best accomplishments were when when a kid calls me and says, "Coach, you changed my life. I'm in college. I got a full ride scholarship." Those things mean more to me than anything that I've, accomplished personally. It really does. It really affects you in a different way.
So, what is Reggie doing in this world that we live in 2021? What do you have? What do you got going on?
Yeah,
What are
so
you
I'm
doing
still
now?
working my nonprofit organization, and now we're adding our own youth leagues. That way, we can mentor kids. We don't have to go through the schools, and we're partnering with some schools. We got a couple schools that we partner with where we can get those kids and work on the mentoring and work on the community leadership.
What's the name of it?
It's
What's the
called
name of your
Stay
501(c)(3)s?
Recruited. And I named it Stay
Okay.
Recruited because I don't want kids to just get recruited. I want them to stay recruited by having work ethic, by having discipline, and also being humble. You see kids, they earn these scholarships, and then they get in some type of trouble and they ruin it for themselves. So Stay Recruited is teaching them, basically how to leverage your athleticism and earn a free education.
Okay. I have a football question to ask. Because like I said, I'm a football geek. What are your feelings on you get a kid that plays for a college team for 4 years, they make it to a bowl and decide to sit out the bowl and uh, get ready for the NFL. What are your
Um,
thoughts
you
on
know,
that?
Early on, I probably wouldn't have a problem with it. I mean, early on, I probably would have said something, but now having a better understanding, I would say that's a business decision. And I'm actually fine with that. I hate the fact that they're leaving their team sort of hanging, but you have to look at the business decision that is made, because that opportunity, what happens if the kid goes and he gets hurt? Now he's ruined the one opportunity to make it into the NFL for himself. And we've seen that happen before. So I try to talk to kids about, because the NCAA as well as the NFL are business decisions. They're businesses and they make decisions for their business all the time. So when a kid has to make, because we're all our own brand, so sometimes these kids have to make decisions that may not be liked by many, but it's a business decision that's best for that person. You know, so I would say if a kid has to sit out his senior year, he's getting ready to go into the NFL draft, I wouldn't have a problem with it. As long as he's talked it over with his coach, he's talked it over with his team, and everyone knows the situation.
Okay. Last question is football related. Do you think that uh, NCAA players, which I think they should, but do you think that they should get a stipend every month? Because NCAA is making so much money off of them. Do you think that they should get a little kickback so they're not starving when they're sit there and having to worry about where they're going to eat?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very fine line. It's a very fine line. I was an NCAA athlete, and we were starving. Truly, I wasn't a guy that was getting kickbacks and things of that nature. Now, there's some kids that may get kickbacks. They may make money. I don't know. And, I know it goes on, but for most athletes that are on scholarship, you're still you're still poor. You're still missing meals. Ashamedly, that's how it is sometimes. But I'm kind of because at the end of the day, the teams that have the most exposure, those are the teams that are making the most money. Still, I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence. I do believe that they should take care of the stuff that is taking a lot of money. I don't feel like they should be able to sit on likeness but not see something.
I love that, brother. So how can we find you? How can we support you, and how can we support your
Oh
mission?
man, I mean, just you giving me this opportunity is great. You can definitely go to my website at www.thestudentathlete.org, thestudentathlete.org, and purchase a copy of my book. And, I'm in Texas, so if there's any kids that need a program to get into that looks out for the kids and the parents and the families, I would definitely appreciate anyone that's interested.
I love that. Now, if we live in such a crazy world. We got parents taking care of kids, we got grandparents trying to homeschool kids, and if I ask somebody to do something in the next 7 days, they're more likely not going to get to it. But if I ask somebody to take an actionable step in the next 24 hours, they're more likely to. So if you know somebody that's struggling, whether in business or in life in general, what can they do in the next 24 hours to start to get some help? I think we cut out again. So, guys, definitely check out Reggie, check out his book, check out what he's got going on. Guys, I want to thank War Cry Apparel for supporting our mission, supporting the podcast. Definitely check them out. War Cry, WARCRY apparel.com. Definitely check him out. Guys, check out Reggie. Check out what he's doing. His book is amazing. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day.
Success stories and interviews with game changers and thought leaders who have overcome both in life and in business. Welcome to Vertical Momentum.